Radio Free Skaro!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 860. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Morning, Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
We are in vacation mode, folks. You're hearing this in July, but we're recording this in June because we're on vacation. But we would never, ever take a week off from this podcast. So that's why this week and next week, it's all fluid links, all your questions, all your comments randomly sorted into a thing and drawn out at random and talked about, deliberated about, and ignored, and nothing is solved. So
the phrase "drawn out" is really applicable.
Oh,
Pointless.
wow. Yeah, there it is. If there was any big breaking news, you will have heard it by now because we would have tacked something on the beginning of this episode. But if not, well, we don't know anything about it. So if we make jokes about something that is really inappropriate a month on, well, that's not our fault. Blame time itself. Right? Anyway, so yes, as I mentioned, fluid links, we haven't done one of these in a while, so let's crack on with it, everyone. The first fluid link comes from Joel Aarons. Discuss the difference with Sarah Jane from the Pertwee era and Sarah from the Baker era. In my mind, her character became more damsel in distress with Baker and lost her feminist strength.
I'm pretty sure she didn't go around with Colin Baker, so I don't know.
The question
I believe that is
invalidated.
called a loophole.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Go on.
I think she more settled into the role than anything else. Like that was kind of the one trope wielded by guys who didn't know what they were doing, like about feminism.
Right.
Not that I do either, but I'm just saying, like Terrence Dix in 1970 something. At all, were not exactly strident feminists, so they were wielding with a cudgel there, I think. And so as things went on, probably also due to Liz Sladen's input, they kind of, there is a little damsel in distress there too, but I don't know. The fact that it never struck me till now, well, actually doesn't mean anything. It means I might be stupid. So an unqualified blah for me.
Right. Chris, you have thoughts?
I mean, she definitely started strong as far as the whole, women's lib feminist stuff. There's nothing just about being a girl.
True.
Holy.
Stuff like that kind of faded over time. But I think the way Warren phrased it is actually pretty good. Like she settled into the role. Like, and I don't know if I don't think it necessarily had anything to do with like the softening of, those edges, the softening of the character. I don't know if it like in the grand scheme, you could kind of chalk it up to all the other stuff in the universe that she saw that maybe, this is going to sound like I'm downplaying feminism, and I don't mean to, but there's bigger problems out there, kind of, sort of.
Right. I see what you mean. Like, once you see that you travel ahead to 1980 and the world is completely gone, you feel like the universe is bigger
stuff like that.
than my journalism job right now. Yeah.
Also, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say that, like, as far as like season 11 is concerned, I liked that aspect of her. Like the, right out of the gate in Time Warrior, she's all like, obviously she's faking being her aunt, but she's still like very, up in your face about that whole aspect and trying to get that representation on the screen.
Yeah. I mean, it's I stammer around and Warren sound like you had something chambered there, Warren. What do you got?
Oh, no. I was just going to say two things. Robot, which I guess technically is kind of a Pertwee story anyway.
Yeah.
She's not screwing around. She's taking charge of everything. But also, she's still, I think, maybe Rose is the other contender. She's still one of the most, if not the most beloved companion of all time. If she was just a damsel in distress, that would not be the case.
Well, and don't forget, and you talk about Robot, look at the next story, Ark in Space, where she's going through the going through the air ducts, and you got the doctor, being a bit of a hard ass, belittling
jerk,
her to drive her on to complete the task of running that cable. Like, I don't know that he did her any favors.
No.
Also, I mean, the Pertwee era, it's not necessarily a relationship with the doctor, but Pertwee era, despite him being like having his freedom and stuff, it's still very much tied to Earth. He's still sort of covert and, chumming around at the unit and stuff. I mean, for maybe 2 or 3 stories until the end. But Sarah has a job. She's actually a companion with a job who goes home at night. I'm still a working girl. I got stuff to report. They really lean heavily into that in the Time Warrior and Invasion of the Dinosaurs. But then by the time Tom Baker rolls around, like, she still is a journalist in Terror of the Zygons, which feels funny. Like, they've been away for a while, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be back here. Obviously, she's working freelance. But she no longer has that desk job, and there was that independence of her having her job, which I think kind of tied into it. And as you alluded to, Chris, Terrence Dicks was very much writing a feminist character, or at least sculpting a feminist character over what he thought feminism should be about. And he himself has said in interviews, I don't think there should be this feminist character in Doctor Who, but we should probably do it. Like, good old Uncle Terrence, he probably learned things later on in life that maybe weren't there in 1973. Bless him. And then I think by the time, not that Robert Holmes is a feminist by any stretch of the imagination once he takes over as script editor, and I feel like Elizabeth Sladen has kind of taken charge of the role at that point. Barry Letts famously said when he was auditioning actors to be Sarah Jane Smith that she was the only one who could be brave and scared at the same time. And even Elizabeth Sladen herself in interviews much later on for the DVD documentary was sort of saying that that she would do anything for her friend, and if she was scared, she would do it. And so, like, she was scared, but that didn't diminish her independence or strength or anything like that. It's all down to Elizabeth Sladen just being amazing.
Yeah,
really.
Like I said, one of the most beloved companions of all time. There's got to be a reason for that.
Because she's great. Elizabeth Sladen. Anyway, next, Fluid Link. From Stephen Lepitak on the Twitters. Which Doctor Who computer games have been your favorites from over the years? Is there a definitive Doctor Who computer game? Wow.
I'm going to go with, what was it called? Dalek?
The Dalek Adventure?
The Mac one that,
is it
that
the Dalek?
Has a Dalek in it?
From the 80s?
Is it Dalek
90s?
Adventure? Is that the one with it's like a side scroller?
No. It's a grid. It's a grid.
Yeah.
You move.
What?
You
No.
move, and the objective is to avoid Daleks and have them crash into each other to destroy them.
Is this
It
Minesweeper?
is very much a Mac game from
It
the
sounds like
80s.
It is
Minesweeper.
so super basic, but it was like, I think my first exposure to any. I don't know that, like, obviously it's not canonical. Was written by nobody involved in Doctor Who. Just some guy saying, "Oh, I'm gonna call this Dalek," or whatever it was called.
Right.
And yeah, that was mine.
Wow.
I remember seeing that game on a friend's Mac 128K or 512 or whatever the early Macs were, and they didn't even look like Daleks. They had legs. I was like, that's not a Dalek. What the hell is this? But then eventually it was patched so they did look like Daleks. Unless you had something to say, Stephen, I would throw mine in.
Do it. I'm trying to think of ones that predate 2011, but I'm not gonna find any.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I'm going to probably steal your thunder here because my favorites are the educational games the BBC came out with during the, I guess, late Tennant and early Matt Smith era. Those were just a hell of a lot more fun than I thought they'd be. I really enjoyed those.
Right? Yeah. What were they called again? Chris, I don't remember. Adventure games? What are they called? Adventure games? Those are the ones. Yeah. They've 4 or 5 of them.
Came out in 2010. The first.
Yeah.
And they're pretty rudimentary, but they were fun, and they really felt like the show, and not much does. Like the new ones, the name of which, even though I interviewed the guys, the name which escapes me, Escape from Reality or Edge of Reality, those do feel like Doctor Who, but they don't have the sentimental, probably because they're too new, touch that those older retro now games did.
Right.
Also, I remember being at E3 in 2010 maybe, and one of them had just come out, and I was in the press area, which is all a bunch of game nerds, and then some poor guy in a suit from the AP trying to file a story. And meanwhile, me and these guys from Gay Gamer were I showed them how to use a VPN, and then we all hacked the game together in the E3 press room so we could play it, because there was all that geographical restriction nonsense. So between the two of us, we figured it all out.
Yeah, because they were free in the UK. But you weren't allowed to download because of some BBC initiative or something like that. They were educational, and thus they were free, and that you could download them.
You couldn't even buy them either.
So we were like, we'll see about that. We're in the center of video games. We are damn well, quote unquote, stealing this game.
Yeah, Chris, I think you supplied this to me. I've got like them on a hard drive somewhere. I don't have an operating system that even runs it, because I think like Snow Leopard was like the most recent Mac version that I had.
They're not 64-bit for sure.
No, so I wanted to play, because those are great. Those are a lot of fun. Those are the Gunpowder Plot was really good. I think that was the biggest one, because it was building on those first four, which are good, but the Gunpowder Plot had a definite educational element to it, written by Phil Ford. I didn't really know much about the Gunpowder Plot, I have to say, at the time. Once again, Doctor Who has educated me through history. It was pretty cool. I wish I remembered. My good old friend Bob Sherman was back in my childhood. His brother had I think a Doctor Who computer game on his Commodore 64 or something like that. And all I remember was this little 8-bit flashing TARDIS. And I thought, that is the coolest thing I have ever seen. It's Doctor Who, and it's on a computer game, and I don't know what it was to this day. But no, my first experience was probably with that one. What was it? There's been mobile games. There was a one where you sort of walk around in like a little grid, and you sort of move them, and then you die, and you fall on a thing.
Oh, yeah.
What was it called? I can't remember that one now.
Was that Mazes of Time, or was that something
Mazes of Time? That was it. Yeah, that was another one. There was Doctor Who. Infinity, is that the one? You know, the sort of the
one. Chris is really good at that one.
Yeah, the jewel matching game.
That was Legacy.
Legacy, that's right.
Yes.
Doctor Who Legacy was one for a while. There was honestly the ones that sort of lean into what they are, like Lonely Assassins, is made for mobile. And it's good as a mobile game because it knows exactly what it's going to be, and it's on although they've ported to machines and stuff too. It works best, I think, on a mobile phone, because the conceit of it is you found somebody's mobile phone and now it's being possessed by weeping angels. And I enjoyed oddly enough, because I don't do well with first person type games, but I did well enough with Edge of Reality on the Xbox. But then when I got a VR goggles, I didn't do well. I could not play it. I just, like, the motion in it was like, nope, I can't do this. I'm getting queasy already. So I couldn't play it. But I enjoyed it on Xbox.
The thing about Lonely Assassins is, and I don't know why there isn't more of this, like, Doctor Who does really lend itself to visual novel / text game type stuff. Because a lot of it is in your imagination to begin with, right? So, and especially with the Weeping Angels. I just want to do a slight plug for a Kickstarter that I put into it's a book called 50 Years of Text Games, and it's based on a bunch of blog posts about 50 years of text, but it's an expansive history of text games, and it just talking about this made me think of that. And I would like to see more text games based on Doctor Who, because it's a weird little niche that still people are doing stuff in, and Doctor Who is perfect for it. It
is, isn't it? It kind of, my first encountering of anything Hitchhiker's Guide related was the text game for that,
which is tough as hell.
I'd be terrible at those. I am terrible at those. Who am I kidding? I can't play those.
Well, bragging rights time. I have still in my possession a copy of Bureaucracy, which is the other Douglas Adams, one of the three, I think. It's the one after Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So I found it somewhere. The old floppy disk and all the tertiary materials and like the case or box or whatever for the other Douglas Adams Infocom game. I can run it on absolutely nothing, but I do have it.
Wow. Impressive, Warren. Impressive. Chris, how were you at text message games, tech-based game? Were you because you were an early computer adopter?
Yeah, I played them back in the day. Hitchhikers, definitely played. Was it Zork?
Zork? You're just Zork's making up words. What the hell?
No. Zork is a classic. You take that back, sir.
Yeah,
I love text games. I'm sorry.
There definitely a handful I played back in the 80s on my uncle's computer.
Was the
long before I had my own?
Was the Doctor Who: The First Adventure was the name of the Peter Davison one, 1983.
Yeah.
Was that text based too, or?
I honestly don't know.
Oh.
No, just looking at Wikipedia, it's graphical.
Okay.
But there's also Destiny of the Doctors, which was the last filmed appearance of Anthony Ainley as the Master.
Oh, right.
That's right. Yeah. I never played it. All I ever know is the cutscenes that were included on the DVD. That's all I know of Destiny. I don't know what that game entailed because I haven't seen any other part of it, which is too bad, because I feel like that would be kind of fun. I have no idea what the game would be like, but that was when a time when like there was all these. Remember those days in video games where the graphics were getting good enough that they could sort of like do some stuff, but not good enough to include actual speaking characters, and so they'd have cutscenes with actual actors. Like I think of Wing Commander 4 or whatever with Mark Hamill and John Rhys Davies and Malcolm McDowell. That was at 3. And then they cut to it. It's just like literally just moving a cursor from static images to cue another cutscene with Mark Hamill in it.
Yeah, or even the cutscenes and things like Command and Conquer or Red Alert, where they're
which is beloved. Actually, there's a whole subsection of people who love those games for the cutscenes and how over the top they are. If you ever want to have a good laugh, there's a Wired article from the mid '90s about all these Hollywood people coming into the video game space and making these cutscene games, and they're Wired as usual gets everything wrong and says this is going to take over video games. This is what the new video games are going to be, and it turned out to be everybody hated it, and they went right back to and that's just when 3D gaming kind of came in too. So so this grand pronouncement went right out the window, and all these Hollywood jackasses who knew nothing about gaming, surprise, surprise, were sent packing back to Hollywood.
Back to the depths of your pit, people.
Yeah. And now, in irony, things like The Mandalorian and probably soon soap operas are being made with game tech, essentially.
Yeah, more or less. Of course, I'm stepping on the lead. The obvious, and this isn't even a joke, the obvious best game is the Doctor Who level in Lego Dimensions, which
I can't argue.
Honestly, if you were to tell me when I was 15 years old, by the way, there's going to be a video game, it's going to be made of Lego, and it's going to be Doctor Who, and they're going to include references to classic Who's, which will make you feel embarrassed to be a Doctor Who fan, and yet also excited at the same time. And that's Lego Dimensions.
They had every single a representation of the TARDIS interior for every Doctor.
They've done half the work.
The minifigs, that is so far beyond anything we could have ever imagined.
I know.
I'm an entitled fan, so you've already got the materials, you've already built all this stuff. Make the Skywalker Saga version of the Doctor Who game, but with a caveat, don't let Steven get it, because if you do, he will never leave the house again, or indeed that room, or he probably won't even eat.
Probably wouldn't. It's so good. It's the best. My God. I mean, I can never ask for anything again now that I've had Lego Dimensions Doctor Who, because it's the greatest. For those that missed out, I'm sorry. You missed out the greatest Lego game of your life if you're a Doctor Who fan. Just a fact. Anyway, next fluid link. Joshua Maxwell asks, what was the moment in classic Doctor Who that made you first want to hide behind the sofa? Mine was seeing the nightmare-inducing plastic doll come to life in Terror of the Autons, and pretty much everything in that story. Are we of the age where we were scared by Doctor Who? That's what I'm wondering.
No.
Mostly no. There's stuff you can look at and go, oh, I understand why this is scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If I were to hide behind the sofa, it'd probably be in embarrassment from watching like Time Monster or something like that.
Wow.
I can go on. Yeah, I think I can think of one, but go ahead,
I can think of one in modern Who. Like when the devil creature goes, "Don't turn round, Toby." I was definitely that's a hide behind the sofa moment. Not that I was, obviously, but that is definitely like the new series is much better at doing this to an adult than But then again, I didn't grow up at I wasn't 3 or 4 watching this. I was 12 watching the old Doctor Who, and it's completely unconvincing to begin with. But even still, give me time, and I'll think of things that are actually scary, proper scary. Deadly Assassin, all that stuff in the Matrix is kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's more creepy than scary, I think.
Yeah.
by the age that we came into it. Like I got into Doctor Who properly like when I was 12, and that's kind of like past that age. But some of my earlier memories of flipping here and there and catching moments, not whole episodes. And one of them was, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, was the cliffhanger to one of the episodes of Nightmare of Eden, oddly enough, when he's running through the sort of the void in between ships, and it's all this Quantel infused nightmare world, and then he stops and he looks up and there's this giant beast that we don't know what it is. It's a mandrill, so be prepared to laugh the next week. But at the time, it was like, oh my god, what is happening? And then and it cuts in. It's like, whoa! I'm kind of freaked out by that. So yeah, Nightmare of Eden. You laugh at Nightmare of Eden. It's the one and only classic Doctor Who story which I was mildly frightened by when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that?
I have one more, but I want Chris to go first before.
Chris, do you have any examples?
I don't think so.
No.
Like, I'm trying to cast my mind back, and I can't recall at any point in time, like, covering my face with a pillow or something to block out the screen, or my hands, or behind this. Like, none of that. I was
nothing that stuck with you, like later on. Like, oh my god, that was no. Terrifying. No,
honestly, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, like honestly, I think the only times that I could ever think of would be where it's like cringy, not scary.
Cringy. I know.
I think of like the gel guards and Three Doctors, or
yeah, they still make me laugh.
I don't know. Meglos is kind of cringy in that way, like Meglos himself.
Mm-hmm. That's half why we love it, though.
As we can all do, I'm sure I can list out any number of things that would probably be scary, but I was never affected by them in that way.
Mm-hmm. Warren, what'd you have?
Oh, just one more. I actually did think of something. This is a jump scare more than anything else. But the atmosphere is so good in Terror of the Zygons that when they get on the ship and then it ends with that Zygon face coming at you, I did do a, what the hell is that?
Oh, yeah. Like at the end of
episode
episode 1.
There's just enough of it.
Yeah.
Just enough. And it still looks cheap and ridiculous. But still, like, it is effective, that Zygon jump scare.
It is, yeah. Sometimes it's fun to put yourself in the mind of the young British child watching Doctor Who for the first time in like 1970s England, through power cuts and coal strikes and everything like that. And all of a sudden they see a Zygon sneak up on Sarah Jane Smith on the telephone at the end of episode 1 of Terror of the Zygons. And you're like, yeah, I could see that. It's fun. It's fun to watch Doctor Who thinking about different perspectives. Mm-hmm. Even though it doesn't necessarily scare us ourselves. Next fluid link. All right. David McLean Dave on Twitter asks this. You can have one incarnation of the Doctor over for dinner. Which Doctor is it, and what do you serve? Yeah,
sorry, I'm tempted to say Colin Baker and carrot juice, but I wouldn't do that.
Carrot juice.
Would that be inviting the actor, not the Doctor, though?
That's true.
Well, I meant 6.
Yeah.
I would have Peter Davison over, and I would have somebody. My mom. My mom's an excellent cook. My mom would have him experience the pleasure of a well-cooked meal, because as I already indicated, he would appreciate it, and I think he would be a great dinner companion. He'd be very fun to talk to.
Yeah,
and he wouldn't be a lunatic like Tom Baker or snarky as hell like Colin Baker.
And he'd be eating it and going, you know what? I don't even taste the celery in here. This is really good. This is amazing. You put celery in here, and I don't even taste it. I hate it.
Doctor.
Yeah,
that Doctor would be great. What about new Doctor? Can we have new Doctors as well?
Oh, of course. Yeah, any Doctors, yeah.
Okay, then I think 13 would be the best one for that, because she would also be enthusiastic about what she was eating. Like, PCAP would be cranky and say the soup was terrible, and and Matt Smith would be too busy waving his hands around. Tennant would be trying to impress everybody and annoying us, and Christopher Eccleston, you might be okay.
I think, go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was going to say, in my mind, there's only one answer, and that's the second Doctor as an androgram.
Oh, but he'll eat you at a house and home. He'll be like
have to be, yeah. So, but I mean, imagine the broadening of the palate that could occur with something.
He won't just
like
eat you at a house and home. He'll eat you in your house and home.
That's true. That's a good point.
Possibly,
I don't want to be eaten by Doctor Who.
This is why I want to go out by Androgum.
Androgum.
Hey, there's worse ways to go, I'm sure.
I feel like
I can't think any.
I feel like having the third Doctor over would just be like, you better bring your A game, because he's going to nitpick. He's going to talk about your gorgonzola cheese and your wine and all this crap. Like,
Well, I was going to say you'd have to have the good stuff for the wine.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, like, you got to go deep. Like no table wines here. No 1979
no
wines. Yeah, $3 Chuck. My God. So he would be tough. I feel like actually Tom Baker probably wouldn't eat a thing.
No, he'd stare at a candle or something.
He's the kind of person of just like I just made this thing in the Instant Pot for 2 hours and you're not even looking at it. What the hell's wrong with you?
You couldn't have the first doctor over because you'd have to keep waking him up.
That's true.
Because he just wants to have a nap.
But I would like to have the Richard Hurndall's version of the first Doctor because that man appreciates a cocktail.
That's true. Can't eat a pineapple to save his life, but
no, or a sandwich.
Actually, you know what? I'm kind of like I think the first Doctor would, judging by how still amazed by the food machine that he is in the Daleks, that if you could just like microwave him like a power bar, like here you go, here's a protein bar. I microwaved it for you. Look at that. There you go. One bite, you taste the chocolate. Another, you taste the peanut butter. It's amazing, isn't it? It's just like your food machine on the TARDIS.
Why would you microwave a protein bar?
Because it would feel like I'm preparing a meal for him. And he'd be like, wow. You have microwave ovens?
Remind me never to eat dinner at your place because you sound like a terrible host.
I would just,
no offense, but
I would just cook a power bar for you. Yeah, that would probably.
Imagine Stephen having the second Doctor as Androgum over to your place and trying to feed him a vegetarian supper.
Good luck with that.
That ain't gonna work.
Just like here, you just devour a head of lettuce. Like, okay, I guess I'll go to the garden or someone else's garden and pick one out for you.
In the words of Dennis Leary, broccoli's a side dish, folks. Always was, always will be.
I just had visions of him eating that cabbage and then Tom Baker's Dr. Poppy and going, have you seen my companion, head of cabbage?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Not recently, no. Guys, but I do crave human flesh or Time Lord.
I think the most reasonable one actually might be the Eighth Doctor, given he's half human.
No, true, yeah.
He'd have a deeper appreciation of how things worked and the food's on offer.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Then you just feed him like Klingon gah or something like that. And say,
what about the War Doctor in all this? Is he too busy to eat?
I think he's basically eating scraps. So you know what? He might be appreciated. You could cook him craft dinner and he'd be happy because I've been eating.
It's not an MRE.
Yeah, I've been eating shoe leather for the past 150 years fighting this damn time war. Put me down for some craft dinner.
He's the one that's going to microwave a protein bar and just keep going. Yeah.
That's how they survived the time war. Stephen, you have created reverse retconning nonsense, basically. But yeah, they survived the time war by reheating power bars in the foil, might I add.
Very dangerous unless you have a Gallifreyan microwave oven.
Well, how it works is it just, when the sparks start happening, it just reverses time. While forwarding time for the inside of the power bar makes it, as all Gallifreyan things are, overcomplicated for no reason.
Naturally. Well, whatever the case, I think I'm pretty sure they're going to eat. It's not going to be healthy. It's not going to be healthy at all. At all. The Doctor will be full, but worse off by the time we fed him.
Oh yeah, definitely. Except when Mum cooks for the Fifth Doctor, it'll be excellent. Fine dinner for all.
That's true. 44 seconds in the microwave heats average power bar. By the way,
it's important to know.
Next fluid link. Our friend Annette Wistra, Scriptorium Girl, on Twitter asks, what do you hope the new Doctor's coat will be like, and or their sonic screwdriver? Of course, talking about shooting. Well, hey, we can talk about David Tennant, but I think we've seen him on the set photos. But we'll stick to Ncuti Gatwa on this. Ncuti Gatwa's new coat and sonic screwdriver. What would it be like?
I've seen him in the coat where it's like, showing his bare chest.
I kind of hope it's that, to be honest with you. No, we won't, but I kind of hope we do.
Yeah, I kind of do too. I mean, they've really led with the goods, with Ncuti Gatwa. It's like, wow, here we go. I mean, yeah. And then how can you cover that up? How can you cover that up now? Now that we know what's underneath, under the hood when it comes to Ncuti Gatwa, it's like you're not going to put him in
Speedo.
You're not going to put him in a button-up shirt this whole time.
Speedo from his Instagram. That's what it is.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of coat lengths here. We had Matt Smith starting off with a shorter one, then eventually getting longer, sort of like, tails and stuff. Jodie Whittaker's coat was very long. I'm wondering if maybe they want to break from that.
Well, we're going to see him in it too,
silhouette.
which will be kind of interesting.
Well, will we?
Presumably.
Well,
all right, whatever. Anyway,
I think you'll find that. I think you'll find that probably Jodie Whittaker's Dr. Regeneration to David Tennant or something like that. I'm just saying.
God, right.
So who knows?
I think what I kind of want to see is something, because the guy is very charming and a little bit flamboyant, just going off his public persona. I don't know how he's going to play the Doctor. So I kind of want to see something like Joe Martin's costume, where it's not of this time, but it's kind of classic and sort of formal, but also has spots of flamboyant color and stuff in it. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't, and nothing like her actual costume, but that kind of idea.
Yeah, I like that idea. I can definitely something with some flair for sure.
Yeah,
like Colin Baker, but 20% of Colin Baker.
It's definitely I can't really envision him in something like Eccleston, like
or Capaldi.
so plain with like a jumper and a leather jacket.
Yeah.
He's not a nerd like Smith was, and Smith was a delightful nerd, but he could prove me wrong with how he acts as a Doctor, but I don't see it off the top of my head in this grand theory.
Yeah.
I know for me, like the biggest problem is having watched all of Sex Education, I can think of nothing but his outfits in that show. Some of which were very, mundane. Some were very, very outlandish. And none of that has any bearing on what he's going to dress like in Doctor Who. Like, I don't know. And somehow I'm envisioning not a suit as such, not a traditional suit. Joe Martin's Doctor, that kind of thing, I really like as a, somewhere in that vein.
There's some, I'm sorry, I don't know the name for it, but like the type of pattern that's on her shirt is very rooted in Africa, because she's the first Black Doctor, and I kind of hope that they lean into that, the first black regular Doctor,
Sorry to keep cutting off there.
That's right.
In Sex Education, so he plays Eric, who's part Nigerian, and they go to Nigeria in the third season, and so he's wearing like the traditional Nigerian garb and things like that. It looks really, really good on him.
Yeah,
and I don't want to pigeonhole him in any such way just because he is a person of color, but I mean that kind of a thing. And there's a formal name for it. And, I remember being told it back in the day by our friend Sarah when we first saw the Fugitive Doctor, but I can't for the life of me remember what it's called. But it's like something celebrating that the fact that they are who they are would be nice. I think
it would be kind of cool, because I know that I could see it two ways when it comes to Jodie Whittaker's costume, and that I liked that they kind of made it sort of an asexual costume, and that many different fans could wear it without sort of like, you're wearing a girl's costume or something like that in the traditional state, like that. Like the coat itself was kind of a very much a unisex kind of coat. But in retrospect, I'm thinking, we had our first female Doctor, and we didn't really lean into that fashion-wise at all during the whole course of her time on Doctor Who.
Although Missy sure did lean into it fashion-wise.
And I think it would be, it would be kind of unfortunate just to stick our new Doctor, the first person of color to be a Doctor Who, full time, and just put him in like some business suit or something like that. I feel like we should celebrate this aspect of his personality and his culture and his history, and actually have that on screen as part of the Doctor Who experience.
I also think there are certain doctors who can wear a frilly shirt, and there are certain doctors who can't, and he is definitely one who can. He has that frilly shirt gene. He could rock a frilly shirt like nobody's business. I feel
a certain Jimi Hendrix
Pertwee level
aspect
shirt.
of it.
Pertwee is the king of this, but I think he might be the strong contender for maybe number one.
That's a good point. Oh, there's a massive palette of things. Why even stick to the same? I hope they sort of like do what they kind of did with Tennant, and have and Pertwee, when you think about it, have the same silhouette but change the
and
pieces.
Capaldi, they did that too, really.
They did too, yeah. Actually, most of Modern Who did. Usually the first season is kind of like, they stick to it, but then they sort of like change the shirt up a little bit. Maybe the coat changes it a couple times. There's a blue suit, there's a brown suit, those aspects, but the basic silhouette is there. And I think if they maintain the silhouette for marketing purposes, I I think you can come up with a lot of stuff. I don't know who the costume designer is on the new series of Doctor Who, so I don't know whose ear we're bending right now. I'm sure they're jotting down ideas, having not thought a single thing about what Ncuti Gatwa's costume is going to look like.
It'll be the opposite of anything we've said.
Yeah,
and it'll work because they know what they're doing and we don't.
They do. What about a sonic screwdriver? What about? I mean, it's just going to be
I haven't even thought of that. Yeah,
no, I haven't thought about that. I mean, Jodie Whittaker's one sort of came up through the story, which is kind of cool. That's the first time that sort of happened. Mm-hmm. What kind of? And
presumably will get destroyed when when Tenet shows. Oh, who knows? That whole Tenet thing's confusing as hell.
It is.
But anyway,
let's say
for the sake of argument that Ncuti Gatwa's doctor also builds a sonic screwdriver. I don't know. I kind of like the and this is just me talking about sonic screwdrivers. I like the War Doctor's very simple. Just a rod with a red light on it. That's all it needs to be.
Yeah. There's a certain, I mean, it's, that's the thing too, because I know the sonic, I'm just thinking of Russell T Davies. One of the great things he did with the TARDIS key was just to make it a normal key again, just so any child in Britain could think that I have the key to the TARDIS in my hand. And I'm starting to think don't make the sonic screwdriver too elaborate so that any child who doesn't have the £19.99 to buy this thing from their local shops, they could just pretend this thing is also a sonic screwdriver,
And Jodie Whittaker's screwdriver was a little toned down compared to the other ones, to be honest. It was also thematic to the story, but if you look at we were getting kind of ridiculous when we got to Capaldi's screwdriver, which I don't honestly think fit his doctor at all. It was just a little over the top.
It was a little bit. It was big. It was big. It's actually having handled the toy. That's the only thing I collect when it comes to Doctor Who toys is the Sonics. And it just feels like I don't know how to hold this thing. Whereas Matt Smith very much used as a prop, like that thing melded with him quite well. Yeah, and then of course the sonic sunglasses, but we won't talk about those.
No, and they're fine they're fine, and it's fine. They're gone.
Yeah, unless you know what, Ncuti Gatwa would make that work though. He'd make that work.
That's true. He would.
Yeah. All right. Next, Fluid Link. Grievous Angel Promotions on Twitter asks, you had to go on a camping trip for 3 nights. Pick a villain, a monster, and a companion to join you. Wow.
That's a bad idea.
Don't take the Ogre. Speaking from experience, don't take the Ogre. That'll be bad because you'll just want to touch the thing and it will eat your skin. A villain, a monster.
Sorry, is it a villain, a monster, and a companion?
Yeah, a villain, a monster, companion. To bring it to you on a 3-night camping trip. Going camping with.
I'm not taking Adric.
Don't take him. He's useless.
You might find him on the campsite, buried under several layers of sediment.
Yeah, it's like start the fire, Adric. I'm no good with my hands. You'll say, and there'll be no fire. You know what? I'm not even sure I want to take Ian because it took him forever to start that fire in the first story. Granted, he was just rubbing this damn stick together.
In the Daleks, I don't know if this was in the broadcast story or just the Target novelization, but in the Daleks, the Doctor had matches that never went out and always struck.
That was Ian who had the matches because he was wandering around.
He got them from the Doctor, I thought.
Oh, was that it? Oh, okay.
Because when they're in the cave or something, he had them, and I thought he got them from the Doctor.
Oh, okay. That does sound like a novelization of an exciting adventure with the Daleks. Yeah.
Which means he wouldn't necessarily have been good at starting a fire there if it wasn't for help.
That's true. So Ian's out.
Stephen, maybe?
I don't know.
He's stealing my thunder here. Yeah.
He seems kind of like a person who would be good with that kind of stuff. Like how rustic do we want to go here? Like, are we catching our own fish and starting our own fires?
We're camping, not glamping. Is basically what we're doing here.
That's where I differ from you. But go on, you guys say yours first, and then I'll tell you mine.
Oh no, Warren, please. What is your level of camping here? What is your
my camping is? Here's what we're gonna do.
All right.
My I've got all 3 picked out. I would have Stephen because he's very handy. And he's a sailor, so all the camping work needs to be done is good, and he also knows how to drink. And a big part of camping is drinking and shooting the breeze by the fire.
You're talking about Ben. You're talking about Ben here, or
sorry, I'm thinking. Okay. Well, either way.
Stephen's a pilot, so
yeah, Stephen's a pilot.
But either of those guys are quite ebullient, so they're good for this role.
Could tie a knot too. Ben could tie a knot if you need a tent set up.
Both,
Ben knots.
They're both very useful characters. I am mixing them up, but whatever. One or the other. As my villain, I would have Missy because she'd be a lot of fun, and I hate camping, so when she killed me at the end of it, I'll be fine. Thank you. Get me out of camping. And as my monster, I would have Arcturus from the Peladon stories because he would light things up. He would be our nightlight. He would be a good comic relief. You could charge all your gadgets with him, and what have you. And Missy would torture him, and it'd be a lot of fun to watch. And get to 3 a.m., everybody's drank too much, and you're all being jerks to one another. That'd be an epic battle, her and Arcturus.
I think Arcturus, and maybe I think a more benevolent one. I think would maybe be a Chumbly. I'd have a Chumbly in the middle. And
sure,
probably,
or a Mechanoid.
No, they're too big. It'd be tough. I think a Chumbly fits in the back.
A Mechanoid could light the fire.
That's true. It could.
Literally could. It's one of the few things that actually has fire. Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. So the Mechanoid is there to light the fire. That's good. And any stray cigarettes from departing Doctor Who producers that need lit as well. Okay. Although good luck finding where you're gonna fit that in the back of the Winnebago or something like that.
Where are we putting Arcturus? That's kind of tough.
Arcturus. I mean, a Chumbly is basically like a wireless charging pad right there. But if you're camping, not glamping, Warren is obviously wanting to glamp a little bit here.
Also, would Missy agree with this? She doesn't strike me as the camping or glamping type.
No, I think I'm just trying to think. What's his name from Dinosaurs on a Spaceship? Riddell and Nefertiti go camping at the end of that. So obviously they're into camping, but are they companions? Oh, that's a debate. Probably not. A villain and a monster. I mean, do you want to have fun at this? And there's a monster there. I mean, is this kind of like the you have a bag of flour, or a bag of feed, a fox and a chicken, and you have to bring them across the river one at a time or something like that.
It is kind of and it's a math problem somehow.
It is somehow too. If I want to have the villain and the monster sort of cancel each other out, so that the companion can just play songs together or something like that. I
kind of want to see a Varden by the campfire. I don't know why.
A Varden by the campfire. Oh, I know why. Because then he could take the tinfoil that he's disguised in and wrap baked potatoes in there, and then you cook potatoes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Depending on how you care to spend your time while camping, I guess.
All right.
Maybe could we take a mandrill? And then you can fry it and do drugs.
There it is.
Okay.
So
So Chris has got a forest rave happening. Apparently, got Burning Man going on here, which Missy probably would go to.
That's what. Now we're on to something. I think. You know what? I'm gonna
Arcturus covered in neon, just high as balls.
I'm gonna go against what I've learned in Doctor Who and say Vraxoan, like anything, is fine when taken in moderation. You don't necessarily have to go completely overboard with Vraxoan. You could just get enough to have a good time when you're camping. So okay, there we go. We got a mandrill who we're going to kill, which is against my very bleeding heart vegetarian beliefs, but whatever. Not an ogre, but we already determined the monster, so a villain.
But an ogron would be good for chopping wood.
Well, a villain. I mean, you could still have the Mechanoid. The Mechanoid is a villain, not a monster.
That's true. Yeah, okay. Is it a villain? Well, I suppose it could be.
I would say so.
Yeah, okay.
Because they had to fight the Mechanoid. I mean, the Daleks and the Mechanoids fought.
All right. So I mentioned Winnebago already, and that was just for camping. But now I'm thinking of Breaking Bad, and the fact that I think we've moved away from camping, and we're thinking, how can we start our underground meth?
With the mandrill.
Vrax Lab.
I think we've done that, but you know what? We do that in the New Mexico wilds as well. So, all right, why not?
I'm looking forward to our premiere of Breaking Mad.
So there we go, Breaking Bad. And who's the companion that is going to enjoy the Vraxoan with us as much as
Turlo? He looks like a guy who probably has a problem.
I think
Turlo would work.
Right.
I like Turlo.
I mean, he's sitting there talking to a cube. That guy he's on something, man.
Well, or think of when he was, spitting, talking about tractators.
That's true.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got a companion now. Who do we want to get completely baked with Vraxoan in the New Mexico wilds while camping?
Wow, this took a turn, man.
While camping in our own personal Burning Man.
Harry Sullivan, because he's so uptight.
I think Harry Sullivan will be a blast. I think you're right.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a doctor and all that. He's in the Navy and stuff, but I think he could let loose.
a real Mad Men vibe where he's kind of like of that time and very kind of tightly wound because of it and certain views. And then you give him some Vraxo and the universe expands in front of him.
I think going back to Warren's first suggestion of Ben, maybe. Yeah. Also a sailor, but as we saw in the Inferno Club, he can unwind.
That's true. Yeah, he'll have a good time. All I ask is that whoever we invite as a companion on, please no one bring a guitar, because we do not need campfire guitar.
No, absolutely not. No, sir.
Wow.
How about the Brigadier? Get him high and he can order like a nuclear strike or something just for fun.
Yee.
It's gonna be a good time. That's what we've determined. But listen, Warren, to change your perspective on camping, let's put it that way.
I'm gonna change your answer, Stephen.
All right.
We're not gonna bring a guitar, but we're gonna have Chameleon with a lute.
And then we're going to leave him in the forest to rust.
He can turn into whatever we want him to. Of course it's going to be true. Literally, every question we get at a Fluid Lake, what would you bring for this? What would you want to do with it? It's Chameleon. Every time it's Chameleon. You're right. He doesn't even have to be the Chameleon playing a lute. He could be, I don't know, a different robot playing a lute. He's all the
robot
possibilities.
Of death playing a lute.
All the possibilities. It's going to be great. All right. Next Fluid Link. Lee Rogers asks on the Twitters, after listening to the excellent discussion of the animation of missing episodes, I don't know what he's referring to. I imagine it was a recent episode of Radio for Skaro. Why do you think the podcast fandom seems so underwhelmed by them? Personally, I want every last missing episode animated, and I'm grateful for the gift. Underwhelmed by animation. Are we underwhelmed, or are we just
aware that was a thing?
Are we expecting it now more? You know, it's become passé in a way.
Sometimes,
yeah.
So sometimes I think we can and are underwhelmed. Was it Fury from the Deep, where they had arms down to their ankles,
right?
Or Dreamland, where the animation was a little out there.
It was of its time. It was very much web animation of the time, more or less.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, if I'm gonna nitpick a problem with the animated stuff,
all right,
it's gonna be that, and this is done by necessity, I realize, but it's gonna be that there are so many, whether it's the directors or the art studios or whatever, there's so many different people and companies and whatever working on them all, that there's no consistency. And then for other things, you've got some liberties being taken with how things are laid out, or necessary changes to how scenes are blocked because it's now widescreen, or things along that line. There's just a consistency that doesn't exist that can help you to just enjoy one as much as the next. I said this before on the podcast, but then I said it to Gary Russell on stage at Gallifrey 1, and he was impressed by it. So I'm going to say it again. But I think the animation for stories have kind of become like target novelizations. They're an interpretation of the story, less than a straight up, like remake of it, like a shot by shot animated remake of it. So I think that allows you to sort of put some more flares into it. Personally, and I've said this before on the show too, my favorite is Web of Fear Part 3. The animations might, maybe some of the skins didn't quite work when sort of putting 2D skins over 3D kind of frames, but just the way it was shot, it's basically we're watching a live multicam version of an animated episode, which is exactly what actually the type of thing that it's recreating. I actually quite like that. I really did. I think that is the way of the future to move towards. And whoever is funding these things in the future, assuming that we get some more funding for these things in the future, I kind of hope they go that way a little more.
My other thing is, if there's liberties taken, I think that's only fair. These people are pouring all this time and energy into something that's like 50 years old that only a niche audience is ever going to want in the first place, and it's probably going to complain about because they're Doctor Who fans. So why shouldn't they be allowed to put some liberties into their hard work? They shouldn't have to slavishly go by some camera script, which was thrown together at the last minute in the first place.
And there's nothing saying what was originally produced is the best way to do it either.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is one thing. I mean, Gary Russell is also like adamant about this because I know they cut out the messing up machine in the Macroterra, like actually chopping a scene out because it was tough to animate. It's like, nope, I can't abide this. You have to put every single second of existing audio in there. That is part of the challenge. That is part of the fun of making an animated bit of Doctor Who. So,
well, I mean, we're incredibly fortunate to have, whether it's Graham Strong or whoever, to have this audio from all these missing things.
Thank you,
to
nerds
even
of the
have the
past.
foundation to do animations. So
yeah.
it almost seems a shame to not be completely true to what came before.
Yeah. I mean, it's that, if anything, I've taken that for granted. I've taken the fact that that's because I know that there has been other stuff that's missing from the BBC, and I think, oh, well, just they should find the audio. Like, oh, a Dalek made an appearance on this show or something in like 1968. Let's just pull the audio. Oh, it doesn't exist. Like, no, fans didn't record absolutely everything. Not everything gets audio recorded by fans at home. Sometimes it's just Doctor Who. So, yeah. Imagine if they didn't record that. My word. Oh, there'd be classic stories that would exist only in Ian Levine's mind. Like, oh, you don't remember this, but let me tell you, the Space Pirates was amazing.
Thank God that's not the case.
That's true.
I mean, I say all that stuff, and at the end of the day, I'm still very grateful that we have these animations to not everybody can stand to listen to like an audio narrated story or watch a recon or whatever. There's people out there who can't even sit and watch animations, I'm sure.
Yep.
But this is short of having the real thing. This is the best we're ever going to get. I absolutely enjoy the fact that we have all these, and yeah, it seems like the funding has dried up, and I would love for things to continue because I would still love to see Highlanders or Smugglers or Reign of Terror, or not Reign of Terror, Massacre.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, take your pick. Those are all historicals.
Yep.
Historicals as it happen to be, but still, there's a lot of stuff out there we don't have that I think is worth putting the effort into, as long as somebody can pony up the dough.
Yep. They're a great way for a lot of people to experience Doctor Who that would never be able to experience without.
And that's why I always say I have nothing against the color versions, because if some kid wants to see it in color, but they're at least seeing it this old Doctor Who. It doesn't really matter if it's in black and white or not.
Yep. Exactly.
And even on the color stuff, whether it's set photos or whatever other reference material, when they're producing the color things, there's a lot of stuff where they actually have actual color information. So it's not like they have to go through and decide, what scheme to use or what to use here or there. They actually have that information in some cases.
For me, it depends on the story. I watched the Faceless ones in color because it just seemed to fit better. But I watched Evil of the Daleks in black and white because that seemed to fit the mood better. So I like having the choice too.
Yeah. God, we get choice. We not only do we get like, by the way, we're going to reanimate a story that's been missing for years, but we're also going to give you a choice of watching it in color, black and white, or if you prefer, the Telesnap Recon. We get three options when it comes to these things.
And don't forget standard versus widescreen.
And the standard versus widescreen at times.
So what are people complaining about in the first place? Come on.
Yeah. Well, they got to have something to complain about, right? No. No, they don't. They don't. Next fluid link. Diane Waller on Twitter asks this. There has been talk on this show, of having variable episode running times to allow a story to be fully told. In that vein, is it time for extended length director cuts of New Who episodes on broadcasted DVD? And if so, which ones would benefit the most? Will they be canon?
No.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I don't like, with a couple of exceptions, I hate most extended director's cuts. They're usually self-indulgent. And I know this is blasphemy, but I think the theatrical cuts of Lord of the Rings, the original Lord of the Rings films, are better than the extended cuts. They're perfect. And Peter Jackson has said, these are the theatrical cuts. I didn't compromise. This is just what I want to see in the theater, and this is what I want to see at home. And I much prefer. It's good that both of them are out there. If people dig them, great. But
Yep.
I having watched many an extended cut, I'm struggling to think of one that I think benefits from it. And also, here's the one that totally proves my point. Apocalypse Now Redux ruins that movie.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
but that's not an extending. That's just a completely retelling.
It's
a disaster is what it is.
It's so
Except for
long.
the French colony, which is a great side story. That'd be a great web video or something. Like, honestly, it would. It's this cool little scene of Martin Sheen with this French family in like the middle of nowhere
Right.
in Vietnam. And it's a great scene, but it doesn't really add to the movie. So
Apocalypse Now TARDIS or something like that.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Chris, did you have some?
I don't think we need like a so-called director's cut or whatever in the first place. There's nothing wrong with doing variable length episodes in general, because that's pretty. You watch anything on Netflix, there's no any series on Netflix. There's no consistency in runtimes necessarily, or maybe if you have any sort of consistency, there's still probably like a 5-minute window. Like maybe it's some are 25, some are 30, some are 28, whatever. But
Disney stuff's like that too, yeah.
yeah, exactly. If the story needs 47 minutes to be told, and the next story needs 62 minutes to be told, okay, do it.
Well,
Like
doesn't need it. That's the thing. But
the 40, 45, 50, whatever minute chunks that we get now, for the most part are utterly arbitrary, because the BBC has to build a broadcast schedule. And, like, sure, back in the day, RTD would be like, I need an extra 15 minutes on this episode. And Beeb's like, okay, go for it. That's not a director's cut. That's just what the story in in his mind anyway needed, and it got told in that way. And that's not bad. That's not like, it's not good. It's not bad. It just is. And that's fine. It doesn't have to be shoehorned into this 50-minute block. Like, as we record this, Legend of the Sea Devils is the most recent thing we've seen. That's 47 minutes ish.
yeah, well, it wasn't intended before 7 minutes at the time. Let me tell you that. But
yeah, I mean, there's the stories out there about why it's that short, because of certain things that had to get cut for reasons. But in general, it didn't have to be that short if they didn't want it to. Like, there's nothing saying it had to be that length of time. They could have told the story in a longer time frame if it helped out, if it helped to flesh out the story. Or the biggest thing is going to be, if something takes extra time, it needs to be worth that extra time.
yes.
And that, yeah.
No, yeah, because we're recording this in June. I haven't yet. I mean, I enjoyed the Stranger Things first 2 seasons. I haven't seen the newest half season yet.
That's a great example. 2.5 hour episodes. What?
And then the last 2, which have yet to drop. They drop after this. So, but I'm not going to mention anything about the because I haven't seen it. But yeah, the last episode, quote unquote, is 2.5 hours long. At what point are you using this to tell a story, or are you just like, let's just be indulgent? And
they could be great for all we know. Like, I haven't watched season 4. I watched the first 3 seasons and I liked them fine, but I doubt it. Like 2.5 hours, that does seem self-indulgent.
It does.
It's show-offy.
I wouldn't use the word self-indulgent. I'd use masturbatory.
yeah,
Possibly, yes.
it's this is the thing that I'm intrigued about. In that, because many times in Doctor Who's time on BBC One, they've sort of like, despite the occasional like, oh, you know what? Okay, it's a finale. Here's an extra 15 minutes. There you go. It's not like John Nathan Turner having to fight tooth and nail for 5 extra minutes for Trial of Time Lord Part 14. But at some point, and this is kind of a thing with all, I mean, with the Stranger Things is, I think, the one extreme. But I think there are times I'm thinking, did this episode need to be 62 minutes long? Conversely, why is this episode only 31 minutes long with 6 minutes of international voice credits on the end of it? It's
But does Meglos episode whatever need to be 18 minutes as well?
Probably not. That's bid meat hacking and slashing and cutting out all the jokes and everything. So this is the one thing I mean, in the hypothetical universe where the Doctor Who isn't beholden to BBC One broadcast schedules when it returns full time in 2024, is not only being episodes being told in the pacing and timing that it chooses more or less, because you kind of have that luxury, but also, let's face it, it would be fun having a massive credit roll on a Doctor Who episode, like a 2-minute credit roll, a full 2-minute version of the Doctor Who theme song playing out.
Unsquozen,
no BBC continuity announcer after the fact or anything like that. Like that's. It's oddly enough, the length of the title sequences is the most intriguing thing to me when it comes to the potential of not being beholden to these things. Thinking back though of director's cuts and they're almost all indulgent. I think the Curse of Fenric actually benefits from
that's a good point.
Having because it was so they had to cut a truncate. I mean, the fact that it's as good as it is with having so much cut out is amazing. The pace is amazing in the Curse of Fenric, especially in Part 4. But I think the full length movie version of that is actually really good, and it puts a whole bunch of character stuff back in there that you do kind of miss. Whereas you watch the extended cuts of Silver Nemesis, and it's terrible. It's even worse than the original version. Yeah, it's like, how many scenes in the limousine did they cut out? And you think, a lot, and they're all bad. That's all bad.
And then you get the absence of extended cuts of like Ghostlight, which could really benefit people's
there's your 2.5 hour.
Yeah.
Stranger. In fact, here's what happens. Netflix, because of monetary problems, just surprises everyone. Stranger Things ending story is actually the 2.5 hour Ghostlight. Confuses the hell out of everyone.
There's your 80s nostalgia right there. Yeah. And it's all set to Kate Hill's running up the hill.
Yep, of course.
Anyway, thanks everyone once again for playing. It's on a game show, Fluid Links. Right, that is it for this batch of Fluid Links and indeed this episode of Radio Free Skaro. Next week, more of the same, folks. More Fluid Links as we go through these summer fallow months of vacation and lack of news, unless of course there are 8 breaking news stories at the beginning of this podcast that we had to talk about over Skype or some antiquated form of communication.
Skype, man. What are we, animals? Come on.
Right, I know. But we'll be back next week again, as we said. So join us then, won't you? Thank you for being with us during these summer months as we take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a pre-recorded break, if you will. Until next time, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreeskaro.com. Follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro. Subscribe to us on iTunes and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.